kicking things off in the kitchen with an A++ one-pot seasonal dinner. This is my spinach and pumpkin skillet lasagna. I'm very excited. I love a lasagna, but I feel like anytime people hear the term lasagna, they're like, oh my gosh, that's gonna take me like 82 years to make, and I don't wanna do that. I'm just gonna buy it in the freezer section. I do understand that, but honestly, a skillet lasagna is great because you're not dirtying a bunch of dishes. Basically, you make the sauce, you make everything in this pan that you need, you take it out, and then you build in this pan. So you don't even need like a lasagna pan or even like a square baking dish to make it. So to get started, we're gonna get to work on a cream sauce because this is like a creamy lasagna, not a red sauce lasagna. So, right? It's the season of creamy sauce. That's like what I wanna eat. So in there, I'm gonna add in 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm using unsalted butter, but if you have salted, honestly, that's fine. The only thing I really stick to using like salted or unsalted for is brown butter. I always use unsalted for brown butter because you're concentrating that salt, but anything else, literally whatever butter you have, put it in a pan. It's gonna be delish. Now this pan is over about medium heat. She's spicy. Hilariously, it's actually on like simmer, but this pan gets real hot, which is not bad. Now into there, I'm gonna add in an onion. So I have a yellow onion that I've just diced up nice and fine. Obviously, the finer you dice it, the quicker you cook. So the finer you dice this onion, the more it becomes like a weekday lasagna. Does that make sense? Cooks up quicker. Makes sense in my brain, at least. All right, so I'm gonna go in with that onion. And I'm gonna season that right away with some salt and pepper. Now, you've heard me talk about this before. The salt in this portion isn't really to make things taste salty. It's more to actually remove some moisture from that onion to help it cook down a little bit quicker and get golden quicker, which is always a good thing in my books. So I'm gonna give that a stir. Ooh, I got pepper in my throat. Hot tip, don't immediately breathe in when you add the pepper into a hot pan. All right, now you wanna cook those onions down from anywhere from like, I'd say like 2 to 5 minutes. You're looking for a little bit of golden brown color and some softening. This pan is clearly smoking hot, so they're already looking pretty good to me. So once those have cooked down and gotten a little bit tender and a little golden, I'm gonna go in with my garlic. Anytime I'm adding onions and garlic into a recipe, I usually like 99.5% of the time, cook the onions down first a little, and then I add in my garlic. Because the garlic cooks and burns quicker. So I've got 2 cloves of garlic right here that I've already minced up. If you don't have them minced up, you can mince garlic any way you want. One time a lady sent me an email, and she was like, why doesn't anyone use garlic crushers anymore? Do you remember those things? Honestly, I don't know why. I don't know why. For some reason, I feel like chefy people were like, that's not a real thing. But honestly, however you get your garlic in, you do you. I'm not your mom. We're just making food together and it's a delight. All right, give that a stir. That garlic's gonna cook down for just about 30 seconds to a minute, just to cook off that raw kind of spiciness of that raw garlic. And now we're gonna start building that cream sauce. Now, if you've watched this show before, you've heard me talk about a roux. And a roux is basically just fat and flour mixed together, used to thicken up any sort of liquid. So I've got 3 tablespoons of butter in there. So I'm gonna add in equal parts, so 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Just scatter that over top. And basically what's happening here, this flour, when it mixes in with this fat and then you add in a liquid, the flour like balloons up and thickens that liquid. As you can see, it's already grabbing onto all of that butter. Give that a whisk. It starts to clump up. And you want to toast that off for just about a minute. What is better than bread? Toast. So obviously, you want to toast it. If I weren't to toast this now, you're gonna get kind of almost like a raw flour gluey flavor. You don't want that. This is gonna give you just that little bit of toastiness, a little bit more flavor. It only needs about 30 seconds to a minute, so that's looking great. So now I'm gonna go in with my milk. It's a cream sauce, but we're using milk. So it's a lie, but that's okay. If you wanted to use cream, you totally can, but honestly, because we've got that roux in there, this milk is gonna thicken up and get nice and creamy, so you're good to go. So I'm gonna slowly add it in, and this is something that always scares people. As you're adding in your milk, things do get a little clumpy, but clumps and lumps, they just happen in life, and that is fine. As this simmers away, they will cook out. So just add it a little bit at a time. If you are worried about those lumps, feel free to heat the milk before you start adding it. But again, as this cooks, those little lumps cook out and it'll be absolutely beautiful. Perfect. This is looking great. So that's 2 cups of milk that I'm adding on into there. And those 3 tablespoons of flour will thicken it really nicely. So I want that to cook, bring it up to a simmer, let that go for about, I'm gonna say, wait, I gotta add something. I don't have pockets, so I forgot. I need to add a little bit of nutmeg into here. Okay. Guys, we're going in with a bit of nutmeg. Anytime I make a cream sauce, I love a little bit of nutmeg in there, especially if I'm gonna add it with ricotta. It gives a little citrusy note. So I've got some here. Pockets, it's in my purse today. Sorry, guys. I'm just gonna add in a pinch of that nutmeg. That nutmeg gives you a little bit of lemoniness. It kind of lightens up the sauce too. It's not gonna taste like an old-fashioned donut. It's just gonna taste nice and delicious. So I've added that in, season that again with a little bit more salt, maybe a bit more pepper. Beautiful. And then you wanna bring that up to a simmer. Once that comes to a simmer, cook that for about 5 minutes. Then it's gonna get nice and absolutely beautiful and thickened. Once that is done, you wanna pour that beautiful sauce, not doing what I'm doing, which is hiding it. Pour that beautiful sauce into a container, because you're gonna use that later, but don't get rid of that skillet. You actually wanna use a dirty skillet for the rest of this thing. So I'm gonna take this off the heat, set it aside, because we're gonna build our lasagna in that pan. So don't wash that, don't do more dishes. I hate dishes. Don't do them. Okay. Now I'm gonna work on the creamy kind of ricotta mixture that goes inside this lasagna. So I promised you spinach and pumpkin. So starting off, we've got 300 grams of spinach here. This is frozen spinach. I thawed it in the fridge overnight. And you just wanna squeeze out, there's a lot of water in here, as much water as possible. Just kind of get your hand and just push. Do you see all that gross green water coming out? All of that liquid, honestly, not a lot of flavor. So you're just concentrating the flavor of the spinach. You're making it nice and kind of dry, and that's gonna make a beautiful filling. So this is 1 pack of frozen spinach, very economical. If you were to cook 300 grams of spinach, you'd be cooking spinach for a really long time, so frozen is my way to go. So I'm gonna add that on into a large bowl, and then I'm gonna go in with that ricotta. So I need 2 cups of ricotta cheese. You can use any type you want. Sometimes it's called traditional, sometimes there's extra creamy. It's kind of the same in my boat, so 2 cups goes in. If you can get it out, well, that's a thrill. Dumping a whole tub of cheese into something. Feels very nice. Now, I'm gonna go in with a cup of canned pumpkin. Now, you wanna make sure you're using pure pumpkin here and not pumpkin pie filling. Pretty much always have this stuff on hand this time of year. So just a cup of that, this is a rough recipe. Add that on in. And then I'm gonna go in with a cup of pecorino cheese. If you wanted to do something like a Parmigiano Reggiano, amazing, but I like the funk of pecorino. So I'm gonna go in with that cheese. Beautiful, beautiful. Now to season this up, I'm gonna add in a little bit of some chili flake just for some heat. You can leave that out if you're not feeling the heat, but I like that. And then for something herby and a bit of garlicky flavor, I'm going in with some store-bought pesto. This is the time of year that my veg garden and herb garden, she's over it. So store-bought pesto is my favorite way to get bright basil flavor into pretty much anything I need. I just store it in the fridge, or if you buy a big batch, just store it in the freezer. Pop it into an ice cube tray, freeze it in little ice cubes, and you are good to go. This, we need about 4 heaped tablespoons to get that beautiful flavor. Now I'm gonna give this a bit of a mix just to start. And to hold everything together, I also wanna add in an egg. That's just gonna help this set up a little bit in the midst of everything. So then when you cut the lasagna, it doesn't turn into lasagna soup. We've all been there. All right, that egg just goes right on in. Give that a mix together. Season it up also with a little bit of salt, maybe a bit of pepper if you're feeling it. But right now this smells really good. Honestly, that pesto, doing all the legwork for me. I didn't have to chop a single thing, which is an absolute delight. That is looking amazing. The spinach in there is great. You can use any sort of dark leafy green you want too. A little bit of kale in here would be great if you're looking for something more hearty. Perfect. Now to assemble this lasagna, this is kind of weird because you want to use like this in quarters, this in halves, and the noodles in thirds. It'll make sense in a sec. I know, writing this recipe, I was like, so take a quarter of the sauce and then Sounds complicated, but it's very simple. Basically, we're just layering things. So the first thing we need is a little bit of that sauce on the bottom of the pan. So about a quarter of that sauce goes in, that nice thick creamy sauce. Spread that out, I know, right? And you need that moisture on the bottom. Now we're gonna top that with our lasagna noodles. You need about 200 grams of ready to bake lasagna noodles. Just snap them. Doesn't matter if they kind of fall apart, it's gonna be fine. No one's gonna know except for people watching television right now. Just add those in. You wanna use about, I'd say, a third of those noodles just to create a little bit of a base. Then we're gonna go on with some of that beautiful pumpkin situation. You wanna do about half of this, spread it out, then we're gonna go on with more sauce and just keep building. Now, the only tricky thing that goes kind of off of the like sauce, noodle filling, it'll make sense when you read the recipe, is that top layer. You wanna save a little bit of that sauce just to spread on top. Since these are no-bake noodles, you want a little bit of moisture so that'll kind of absorb into those noodles as it bakes in the oven. You need that or else it's just gonna be crunchy and nobody wants a crunchy lasagna. Crispy, yes, crunchy, no. Okay, so now on top of there, we obviously had to add a little bit of extra cheese. So I've got a cup of grated fontina, mozzarella, whatever you've got, anything that's good and stretchy and gonna go nice and golden brown. That's gonna be perfect. So I'm just gonna scatter that all over the top. I'm one of those people, I'm like an edge person, so I really favor the edges, because then you're gonna get almost like pan pizza. You know when you get like you know what I'm talking about. Those crispy little bits, so exciting. So that is looking beautiful, but now I do need to trap steam in there before this goes into the oven. So we need to kind of put a lid on this, but since I've got all that cheese on there, I don't want it to stick. So this is my trick. Get a little bit of aluminum foil, rip off a piece big enough to fit over that pan, and then use the dull side, not the shiny side. The dull side's a little bit more non-stick than the shiny side, so you wanna use that, but then for a little bit of extra insurance, non-stick cooking spray. So give it a bit of a spray, and that's gonna help that cheese, brown, because it's got a little bit more fat on it, but also not stick onto that foil. So add that on top. Give it a nice seal. I probably do 2 pieces on this one just to make sure I've got all those edges sealed in. And then I wanna pop that into a 375-degree oven. If you get this to this point and you wanna pop it in your fridge overnight, feel free to do that. But we're gonna bake it right away, again at 375 for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes is perfect. Then you wanna remove that foil. Let it go for another 15 to 20, just until it's cooked through and that top gets nice and golden brown. And you end up with something that kind of looks like a pan pizza. That is so delicious looking. I am very excited about it. Now with any sort of lasagna, you do want to set it aside to give it a chance to not be nuclear hot on the inside, because this is like lava right in there right now. So set aside for at least 10 minutes. That's gonna set up that ricotta mixture a little bit, make it easier, fingers crossed, to cut. So I'm gonna give it a taste. Let's give it a go. Now it is a triangle or a square. No, it's not, it's a circle. Mary Berg naming all the shapes. We're feeling good. Now, if you want, you can cut this kind of like a pizza. I wouldn't be mad at that, but I'm gonna go kind of classic lasagna shape. So just cut through that beautiful, crispy topping. Since I did this in a cast iron skillet as well, it's really, really nice because it's a nicely seasoned pan, so it's not gonna get stuck to the edges. You're just gonna get those golden brown crispers. The noodles are nicely cooked. A little bit of a lifter, fingers crossed. This is where you say a little prayer that everything comes out okay. And you lift this little baby right out of there. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a nice looking lasagna. Feeling very excited. All right, I'm gonna transfer that on into a dish, whether you're doing like a bowl, whether you're doing a plate. I personally am a plate bowl gal. A little bit of extra pecorino on there is a total treat. And then obviously we've got that basil pesto, so I'm gonna throw some fresh basil on top. Now, when you're working with fresh basil, you can chop it. You can do something like a chiffonade, which is a nice little ribbon. I personally just like tearing it. I feel like you get a really nice scent. It kind of makes it feel like you're, I don't know, in Italy, cooking a lasagna that I guarantee you would never find in Italy. I feel like this is not official, but it's so good. It's so tasty. I'm gonna give it a taste. 3 types of cheese, 1 type of pumpkin, all type of delish. Okay, let's go. Guys. You have to make this. This is like pure fall in a bowl. Oh my gosh. Guys, that's so good. I'm tooting my own horn. You know what this feels like? I would almost say that this dish is like MasterChef worthy. And speaking of MasterChef, I am so excited to announce that MasterChef Canada is back for a new season. Casting is now open. Guys, this is where I got my start, literally like 9 years ago right now, which is kind of shivery and very, very exciting. So if you're a home cook and you think you've got what it takes to be Canada's next MasterChef, go to ctv.ca/MasterChef Canada casting to apply, and best of luck. I cannot wait to see it. What a thrill, what a full circle moment for me.
Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.